So once we have our ruler figured out, all right, we've got our white sheet of paper here. What I want to do is go ahead and make two parallel lines going lengthwise like this, but I want them to be 2.5 inches apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the top half of the ruler at the very top part of this, okay? You'll notice that a regular white sheet of paper is 8.5 inches long. Half of that is 8.25, so we go to, or 4.25, excuse me. We go to 4.25, and I'm just going to put a little mark there just as my little jumping off point. And then what I want to do is I want to make a two lines that are 2.5 inches apart. All right. So if I put the 1/2 inch mark, 2.5, okay, and I were to put it here and there, that's going to make a 5 inch wide. So I want to go half of that distance. So I want to go 1.25 inches. All right. So we're going to measure 1.25, and then 1.25 plus 1.25 would be 2.5. All right. I'm going to repeat this process down here near the bottom. Okay. So there is the bottom of my sheet there. I'm going to measure out again. We've got 8.5. Measure my center point just so I know where to measure my 1.25 from. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily have to be right on 1.25 like this. You can see where my mark is, and then I can go back and put my mark here, and then 2.5. Okay, if you want to start with 3 and you can add 1.25 inches, that works also. All right, I've got my dots all made on there. I'm going to go ahead and use my straight edge to create a straight line going vertically, connecting those two dots, just like so. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip this around just because it's good practice to go ahead and put your ruler or your straight edge, whatever you're using, on top of the piece that you want to save. So it protects it. So that way if my pencil slips or something like that, it's not going to put a mark in here that I don't want. Okay? Now we want to make these 2.5 inch squares. All right, but you'll notice that this is 11 inches long. Gotta move that up there. There we go. So a regular sheet of notebook paper is 11 inches long. Well, that doesn't divide into 2.5, but 10 does. So what I want to do is I'm going to measure a 1/2 inch here and a 1/2 inch here. Okay? So that makes this distance from here to here, voila, 10 inches. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Make sure we measure the whole length, a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. Okay? And so if we want, we could go ahead and connect those two lines. Just like so. All right. So now what we need to do is measure 2.5 inches down each one of these things. So there's my 2.5. 2.5 times 2 is 5. 5 plus 2.5 is 7.5. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side. 2.5, 5, 7.5. Okay? So now what I can do is I can go ahead and move that over a little bit closer so you can see. Line that up just perfect. Okay? For this one though, I'm going to go ahead and make the line go all the way across, and I'll explain why in just a second. Because what we're doing is we're going to create the letter T using these boxes. Okay, come on, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and just connect these here. So you can kind of start to see the letter T shaping up here. All right, so again, we want these to be 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to measure 2.5 from this line over to here, put a little mark. And 2.5 from here, put a little mark. If at any time you guys need to, slow down and need to go ahead and do the drawings, feel free to pause this video and then continue on. Don't feel like you have to keep up with me. I know what I'm doing, so I may end up going a little bit faster. So I measured 1, 2.5 there, and I did the same thing here, 1, 2.5. Okay, so then we're just going to go ahead and connect these dots here. And then the same thing on that side. Notice that I'm always putting my straight edge on the piece that I'm saving. Okay. And so there we go. So now I've got all of my 6 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 boxes made.